Hey folks, Alan from Kildare Psychotherapy and Counselling here, currently with the ever increasingly long hair, as you can see. Absolutely craving a haircut at the minute, and that's something we're going to talk about today. So we're going to look at the difference between craving and hunger and why you might be eating so much shite since you've been on lockdown. So first of all, folks, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to comment and share and like the last video on anxiety. I've got private messages on Facebook, I've got text messages, I've got emails, I've got phone calls from people looking for further information or just thanking me for putting that information up there. I know it's helped a lot of people kind of understand what it is that's been going on with them. So thank you for that, first and foremost. So to kick off then today, what we're going to look at is a couple of different things. So one is craving versus hunger, why you're craving the food you're craving, and then we're going to look at the difference between hunger and emotional hunger. Very different things. So as you're watching this video on YouTube, if you could go ahead and do me a big huge favor, you could hit that like button. If you could also comment below, let me know your thoughts, any questions you may have, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you receive notifications every time I upload a new video. So we've been on lockdown for a couple of weeks now. I'm sure we're all getting very bored. Everyone, I'm sure, has very clean houses, very tidy gardens, but very long hair and all the other grooming that goes along because no one can get to a barber shop or a salon. So the house has been taken care of, the environment is taken care of, but what about the internal? What about what's going on in here? So a lot of people, as I'm sure you're seeing on Facebook and social media, which is what I'm seeing, is a lot of people complaining, oh, I've put on so much weight since this has started, I'm eating so much shite. There's a very real reason why you're eating so much shite and why you're craving what you're craving. It's very rare that we crave a salad. It's very rare that we crave very healthy foods. What we usually crave is sugary foods, fatty foods, shite. Tastes good, but too much of it is not going to be a good thing. And the reason why we crave those kind of foods, the fatty foods, the sugary foods, is from an evolutionary point of view. Those foods were hard come by. So fat could only be gained from animals, sugar from the likes of honey and fruit, and they weren't always abundant, particularly in wintertime. So our primate ancestors evolved to be able to eat fermented fruit. Anyone know what that turns into? It turns into ethanol, which is alcohol. So this is how humans and our primate ancestors learned about alcohol and the mostly good effects that can come with it. The problem with that then is ethanol versus other carbohydrates of its own weight contains way more calories, which is brilliant, if you're starving or if you're eating fermented fruit, because you can when other animals may have left it and had a difficult time finding other food sources. So anyone familiar with a beer belly, that's where all your calories are coming from. It's coming from the alcohol and it's coming from the ethanol. There was a lot of advantages to eating these foods, but they were pretty much scarce and they weren't always there. Unlike now, when if you're craving fatty foods, if you're craving sugary foods, you can ring for a takeaway. You can go down to Tesco's or Aldi or Lidl, Super Value, wherever you go. You can buy all the biscuits you want. You can buy all the crisps you want, all the fizzy drinks you want. So there is an abundance of sugar and there is an abundance of carbs and fats, which have been very good for us in the long term. There has been a lot of benefit to this, in terms of comparing fat and sugar to vegetables. You don't get the same amount of calories, obviously, as you know, which is great if you're on a diet because you can eat loads and loads of vegetables or carrots because you're not getting a lot out of it. But we did get a lot out of sugar and we did get a lot out of fat. So when we're craving those things, why we crave those kind of things is because they have, from an evolutionary point of view, been very good for us. Fatty foods, that fat was retained. In leaner times, we could consume that. We could consume our body fat. Sugar, we got energy from it. So there's been a lot of benefit from that. But now it's just abundant and it's everywhere. So why are you probably craving it now? Because in all likelihood, you're probably bored. and understimulated. So food and sex are our two basic mood alterers. So you may be eating a lot of shite, but you may also be engaging in a lot of sex or masturbation, because these are our basic mood alterers. As if you're bored, if you're understimulated, and you're craving something more, and that's the key word here, craving, is because you're not hungry. If you're actually to take in with yourself, you're not hungry. You're craving something. Hunger is a physiological sensation from our body to say we need to consume more calories. And of course, calories then are converted into energy, which we use to move and perform the vital organs and stuff within the body. So the difference between craving and hunger tends to be more of a gradual sort of thing. We get this physiological signals from our body that we need to consume calories, because calories is converted into energy, whereas craving tends to be more instant. You're dying for something, you're craving a takeaway, craving a pizza, craving ice cream or sweets or whatever like that. But the difference is it's more psychological. So hunger, physiological; craving, psychological. And so if you're bored, if you're stressed, they're the kind of times when you're most likely to say, fuck it, I'm getting a takeaway, fuck it, I'm having a glass of wine, fuck it, I'm eating all the cake, I'm eating all the sweets, I'm eating all the biscuits, because it's a mood modifier. I'm feeling one way and I want to feel another way, and one of the most basic ways of doing that is through food. So for anyone with that has experience of eating disorders, when is your eating disorder most likely to kick in? When shit is out of control, because you can control your food when you can't control everything else within your life. So it's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's rare that eating disorders are generally there when life is going good. It's usually when life is stressful, when things are getting on top of you, when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. That's when the eating disorder kicks in. So there's a lot within food that has big influences on us physiologically and psychologically. So that's why you're probably craving all the bad stuff. The bad stuff. I mean, it's only bad when it's not eating in moderation, but in and of itself, it's a good treat, and it has a purpose. It alters our mood ever briefly, so we get a dopamine release. If you remember from the other videos, dopamine is involved in the reward system of the brain. It also works with the hippocampus, which is involved in memory storage. So your brain remembers that these foods, which have been beneficial to us from an evolutionary point of view, which is why this has been passed on, we remember that this stuff tastes good, or remember that this stuff has benefit, and so that can be the source of comfort at times of boredom or stress or whatever it may be. We also have a huge relationship with food, because anyone familiar with Freud and his psychosexual development will talk about the oral phase. So the first source of pleasure that we receive is through the mouth. The baby receives the breast, receives the bottle. This is how nutrients are taken in. And very often, well, hopefully, that child experienced love and experienced nurture and comfort and was held as was being fed. We all know that feeling for everyone with children. You gaze hopefully adoringly at your child, and they're looking back up at you, and it's rare that we'll ever find that sort of comfort again, of having every need met, of being comforted, of being protected, of being held, of being warm, all the things that we need. So all that association from pretty much day one is between comfort, nurturing, and pleasure through the mouth, and that then develops later into, as we know, food. If you've had, growing up, sweets and cakes and stuff like that may have been a treat. It may have just been at Christmas or birthdays, or once a week on a Friday or a Saturday, if that's what it was. So that there's also that, this is something to look forward to, and this is how, again, other associations can develop with food. So the other thing, moving from hunger to emotional hunger, which is a very different thing. So this is where we could get kind of properly into comfort eating, is you're trying to fill that void literally by filling up with food. However, it's a source of mood modifier. Again, as I said earlier, I'm feeling one way and I want to feel another way. I'm feeling stressed, food is my source of comfort. So very often that can be coming from a difficulty in dealing with unpleasant emotions, whether it's boredom or anger or stress or anything like that. That's when we turn to food. That's when we turn to our mood modifier. And of course, when we're feeling shit, we usually don't look for a salad. We tend to like the sweets or the fatty foods. So one of the other difficulties that can arise with this from the comfort eating is we can get kind of caught up in what would generally be for any other addiction, the cycle of addiction. So we're preoccupied with it, so you can't wait to get home and have that ice cream or have that bit of cake that's left over in the fridge or whatever it is. You get that temporary, and it is only a temporary hit of dopamine that we get in our brain. So you get a little buzz. Then what happens is you might start to feel shit because you promised yourself you weren't going to eat so much, or you promised yourself you weren't going to have that cake, and then you start feeling shameful. And then what does the brain learn is is a way of feeling something that you don't want to feel. It looks to that thing which has provided comfort in the past, which is food. So you get preoccupied. You have your hit of cake or sweet or fat. You might start to feel a little bit of self-loathing, a little bit of shame. Round and round the cycle goes. So there you are, folks. I hope this video helps you to understand what it is that you might be going through at the minute and why you're craving a lot of shite, why you're eating the sugary foods, why you're looking for the fatty foods. It's probably coming from a place of boredom, but it can also be coming from a place of comfort eating and avoiding difficult emotions. So that's something to bear in mind for yourself. If there's something you'd like to know a little bit more, feel free to drop me a private message. Feel free to get in contact. You can always get me on 085 1865 209 or on Facebook at // Kildare Psychotherapy, or you get me on the website kildarepsychotherapy.com.